Welcome back to Collecting Issues, where this week we'll be taking a look at 20th Century Men, collecting issues 1 to 6 of the 2024 comic from Deniz Camp and Stipan Morian. Stipan Morian? Who's to say?
Stipan, I think.
Image.
So the comic book education continues?
We're talking inappropriate comic books.
You're into comic books, aren't you?
That's comic book shit.
Like in the comic books.
Comics.
He could say, I guess. Benjamin, it's Collecting Issues is the sometimes bi-weekly comic book club. Sometimes it's monthly. Sometimes we just forget. But look, we're not talking about us, the 20th Century Men in question. We're talking about a comic book called 20th Century Men. But Benjamin, we should probably point out that in Collecting Issues, the sometimes bi-weekly comic book club, we're making the bold and brave assumption that the listeners who are listening to this currently have read this comic book. So this is going to be a spoiler-full discussion right from the start. And if they haven't read it, what should they do?
Oh, go and read it. Go away.
And read it.
Get out
Come
of
back,
here.
though, for the listens.
Yeah, do come back. This isn't like the scene at the end of the American movie where the animal that should be free because of the majesty of the wilderness is told to get out of here. Scram! We actually want you to come back. Get out of there, Scram. Back. Taste the wilderness and then come back.
And by taste the wilderness, he's metaphorically speaking, he means read the comic book 20th Century Men by Deniz Camp and Stipan Morian. Ben, who's publishing this son of a bitch?
It's Image Comics, Michael. It's only the lads over there at Image.
Lads over there at Image, Benjamin. I'd say they're a grand bunch of lads, but they never send us anything for free, so fuck them.
Yeah, lads out at Image Comics. We do a lot of Image Comics on Collecting Issues, the sometimes bi-weekly, monthly comic book club.
Yeah.
Get it back. Send us some stuff.
No, this isn't free, you know. This is expensive. This costs us money. We have to buy these comics.
I've bought all the comics. I've got paper comics coming out of my arse. Look at this.
Oh, no.
Look at this.
But you could get that treated, Benjamin. Benjamin, are you sure this is only 6 issues? Because it's a son of a bitch of a thing to read in a short period of time.
Meaty 6 issues. Jesus. It's a good thing we give you a month to read these comics. It's a good thing we give you a month.
Yes, it is. And sometimes more. Benjamin.
Yeah.
What is it, though? 20th Century Men. It's not just about us. It's not just about you and I, your standard stereotypical 20th century soy boys.
No, Michael, though we are two 20th century soy boys. But it's not about us, Michael. Michael, there's an eternal question that echoes through every age of mankind. And that question is, war, what is it good for?
Some people would say, and I'm stealing a joke from a stand-up comedian,
oh no,
scientific development, the technology, in the long term bringing together of communities rather leading people to live in small tribal groups. You know, there's some people would say that a lot of the current success, Benjamin, of humanity is due to a bit of interscene conflict.
Yeah, but that didn't fit into the chorus and callback line of a 70s disco.
Sorry,
hit,
yes.
Michael.
I meant absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing is what I meant to say.
There we go. So, Michael, aside from all the things that you've just listed, which are actually discussed in this comic.
Yeah. Think about that for a second.
Absolutely nothing is the answer.
Yeah. Very good. Benjamin, though. Benjamin. Yeah. When you were a young boy.
Yeah.
Did you ever think to yourself, when I grow up, I'm going to be famous, and I'm going to be famous for writing comics like a big Warren Ellis. I'm going to do Warren Ellis comics when I'm older, but you know, without the implications.
Without the implications. The implications are that he's a bit of a dick.
Oh, he's a bit of a bag end, Benjamin. But look, there's a big whack of Warren Ellis off this. There's a big whack of you can't. Look, it's Ben. We're doing a comic book podcast. We should probably just put this on a soundboard. But there's a whack of Alan Moore off it. There's a whack of Warren Ellis off it. There's series of oh look, we'll talk about this later. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
Yeah, there's occasional intense bursts of Grant Morrison off it as well, Michael. But we'll talk about that because we have it on the chopping block here. But Michael, if you were coming to this comic fresh for the first time and you weren't sure what you were getting into, I suppose centrally what we're looking at is what makes that great man so bloody great anyway? And the answer again, Michael, is absolutely nothing, you warmongering, mech-wearing fuck.
Is that what you took from it? Was he the baddie?
I don't know, Michael. I think fundamentally the question is, does war benefit society actually, or is it just a bunch of lads with big egos lying to themselves and reliving glory days while they continually destabilise other burgeoning societies around the globe? And
Benjamin, yes?
Should we just give up on Western imperialism altogether? Put it in the bin.
Put it in the bin. I like how they call Russia the West in this as well. But I like how the Russia just gets lumped in with them. From the Afghanistanian perspective, Benjamin, it's just like, they're all the same. Whatever.
It's all invaders.
It's all the same, Benjamin. So this is basically every war comic you've ever read. Because every war comic you've ever read, as long as it's not some piece of like dime store rubbish, Benjamin, if there's any sort of... if there's any sort of morality or lesson or even thought behind it, generally comics are of the... They present the opinion of war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Now, obviously, that doesn't count for your likes of your Marvel, because what is it good for? It's good for creating a tense situation from which a hero emerges. War is the chrysalis from which is birth. Tony... But this is set... This is going to sound callous. This is set in one of the most neglected wars.
All right, go on.
One of the, it doesn't really get the popularity it deserves, does it?
It doesn't have a zingy title with a number next to it. No.
Yeah, it's not World War One. It's not World War Two. It hasn't got the grim and grittiness of Vietnam. It hasn't got the MASH tents of Korea. It doesn't even have the video games and popular culture movies of, say, the Gulf War.
The Gulf War, a great war, Michael.
One of the best
that was
ones.
World War One. Sorry, that was World War One. Never mind. Little World War One joke there, folks.
Little bit of wordplay on the word great. What's this war called internationally?
It's known as the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, or the Soviet-Afghan War is technically what it's known as. It took place from 1979.
What's it known as in Russia though? Because
it's probably not that.
I doubt it's
throwing
that.
A curveball so early.
Well, that's my whole point, isn't it? Because the whole point of this is that things have different names and things have different perspectives, but at the end of the day, it's all rubbish.
But at the end of the day, it's all a bit rubbish for everybody involved. So this war took place over the course of a decade, Michael, from 1979 to 1989, and it's a real actual thing that happened and and symbolizes one of the coldest or hottest points of the Cold War.
The old Cold War, the old Americans and the Russians just prodding at each other and doing their proxies, the bastards.
Just prodding and so on and so forth. So the Soviets came in and said, we'll save you, Afghanistan. And Afghanistan looked around and said, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
Save us from what?
Save us from what? And then, of course, in true colonial fashion, the Russians said, save you from yourselves, Mujahideen. Save you from yourselves.
There's too many drugs or whatever here, so we're here to help stop that or whatever. Look, our understanding of war is very simplistic here at Collecting Issues.
Yeah, it's surface level at best. At best. Michael, I didn't realise that okay, let me be very clear here. I signed up to this because I like Deniz Camp, right?
Yeah.
Deniz Camp is an absolute hot topic at the minute in comic books. He's a hot potato, Michael. He's bloody writing his little heart out on comics like assorted crisis events, Michael, which is a fabulous testament to comic books as an artistic form. It is a blendy, timey-wimey, constantly happening all at once series of surreal crisis events that you might have found back in the late 1970s, 1980s. Crazy stuff. Great series. Also from Image Comics. Good stuff, Image Comics. He's also writing the absolutely mind-bending Absolute Martian Manhunter at the moment that we're all enjoying across the globe. But we've written about it on our Substack. You can find that linked below in the description.
Look
there
at
if you want
click,
to have a look
click
at
the
that.
link for the love of God.
It's down there. You can take a look at that. Deniz Camp is a spectacular storyteller, and this is arguably his magnum opus, Michael. And it is so dense. This is such
I'll argue
a
that
dense
with you.
work.
Oh my God. Well, look, I found this hard to get into.
It's a slow burn.
It's a bit of a slow burn. It's very dense. I spent the front end of this thinking, this is pretentious. This is just too much. This is like, I can read. I know how to read. I know most words. It'd be very rare to come across a word that I don't know. But the structure of the front end of this is so reader unfriendly.
Yeah.
That it nearly put me off. Now, bear in mind, Benjamin, I'm going to do a surprise plot twist and say this might be the best comic book we've read in 2025. But the front end of it is either purposefully or this is a stupid binary. Either purposefully or accidentally. So reader unfriendly, I almost put it down. And went, I'll read this when my brain has more sugar in it or something. I cannot get my head around this. This is too much. It's jumping around time zones. It's incredibly wordy. It does not hold your hand and introduce characters. It doesn't hold your hand and do any, like, there's no exposition in this, essentially. Or, funnily enough, they squeeze a lot of the exposition into the... But especially issue 1 or volume 1 or chapter 1 or whatever it's called here, I found this impenetrable. And Benjamin, because collecting issues, the bi-weekly comic book club, is a positive experience, and I want to end this point positively, I think it's worth saying right up the top here, stick with it.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those stick with it jobs.
Yeah. And it delivers, Michael. And I think that the saving grace of a lot of this, Michael, is the art from Stipan Morian.
No, you're wrong. The
Stipan.
saving grace is on the first page where the helicopter blades are spinning and it just says fuck, 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 fuck. That's the saving grace.
It is very good. Take a look.
That's why I kept reading it. That kept me in. Sounds like a helicopter too. That's some great onomatopoeia.
Yeah, so that's actually the work of Ditya Bidikar, who also worked on the comic as the letterer. And Michael, a phrase that we introduced on our last collecting issues was the concept of diegetic lettering that served both a narrative purpose but was also heard by the people involved in the actual story itself. Diegetic lettering, Michael. I'm not sure if it's real. I'm not sure if we've coined it. If we had, you heard it here first. But it's a great example of diegetic lettering.
Great example, like Pow from Batman. Benjamin, talk about Stipan, though. Talk about him. You're about to talk about him.
Michael, I want to show you the happiest looking artist I've ever seen. Look at that man. Very hard to see.
I can't see him.
Look at how happy he is.
Oh, he's having a great time.
That's Stipan Morian. He's a big, handsome, bearded, long-haired Croatian fella, Michael, and a heck of an artist. I would say one of the things that made me power through issue 1 of this, Michael, because I too know a lot of words. I know words. Me.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Words that burn.
Words that burn, Michael. I talk about pyomes.
Pyomes.
I know
can't
words.
even read pyomes. Ben knows most of the words, everybody. Most of them.
I know words. I know them.
Yeah.
I know, say one thing about Ben Colby. Say he knows words.
He knows a lot of words. But still, there's too many words in this.
It's too many. But I think that this is one of the most staggeringly fluid series of panels and artworks that I've come across in a comic in a very, very long time. I think there's a length and breadth of styles to this, all drawn by the same guy, Stipan Morian. I think it combines this bizarre kind of gonzo reality of comic books and the horror of war into a fluid kind of series of panels and stylistic choices. And then I think it's oddly journalistic in places. I think it's horrifically human in other places. And you go, oh God, this is brutal stuff.
It does jump around styles all the time. I kept getting a hint, like there's hints of Frank Whiteley in there. Because if you're going to be being inspired by your Warren Ellis's and your Alan Moores, you're going to be inspired by your Frank Quitely's as well, because they're from the same ilk and generation. There's even there's hints of what's his face, that mad artist Bill Plympton. There's Plympton-esque bits in here. There's like the guy with the no face when he rips his face off. I was like, I could see Bill Plympton animating this. I could see myself watching this on Channel 4 as a 17-year-old late at night, accidentally turning it on and going, what in the monkey's mickeys is this, and why is it so engrossing, even though I've tuned in the middle of it and have no idea what's going on.
To quote yourself, Michael, this better not awaken anything in me. As Michael would say at 17 years old in front of Channel 4 after the watershed. Oh, Jesus.
Oh yeah, some of the best problems introduced into our lives.
Mick Leonard. But Michael, what sold me 100% by the end of issue 1 of this was this goddamn panel here.
Which one's that, Benjamin? I can only see a vague kind of greenness.
It's the splash page where the Iron Star gets his heart replaced with a nuclear reactor. And I went, oh fuck, that's a great splash page. Oh my goodness, what a splash page that was. And it kept me involved. And Michael, I'm so glad I stuck with it, because what a bloody comic.
Very good. Benjamin, though.
Yeah.
There's no goodies and baddies.
Oh, Michael, everyone's a loser in the theatre of war.
Oh, I see.
See what I did there? Took me hours to write that, Michael. I must have workshopped it for hours. But anyway, no, you're right. There's I suppose you could look at it as 3 key characters in this, Michael, through which the story is told. Or 3 distinct viewpoints that we have to understand in order to really sum up what you said there about no winners whatsoever, because all 3 characters come into this with something they want, and all 3 characters leave with nothing akin to what they wanted, except for one very smug Afghani spy. But we'll talk about that, because I think it's quite important.
I assume she was your favourite character, Benjamin. I'm not going to get into your post-watershed predilections, but I assumed she was your favourite character.
Stop that. How dare you be so accurate. No. So, the characters that the kind of 3 that I think are important are Petr Platonov, or the Iron Star. He's the big mech-wearing fella that you see on all the covers. He's the pensive-looking war general on the cover of the collected issues. President Thomas Goode, the American Dream, otherwise known as the American Dream. Yes.
Ben. He's just Captain America. He's Captain America if he was a big prick.
Yeah, but he's Uncle Sam if he was a big prick and Captain America. It's great. He's got a little goatee. He's got white hair and a little goatee, and he looks like a really evil Uncle Sam. It's fab stuff. And then the other character who's quite important is Azra, and she doesn't get a second name, Michael, because she's a spy. And she keeps it hidden.
She's very mysterious, yeah.
Yeah, she keeps it hidden. So those are the 3 characters, and I suppose if you were to take them as they were, or as the symbols they are meant to serve in the story, one is the failed utopia of the kind of misaligned Russian dream of communism, and that's the Iron Star. One is the absolute avarice bordering on bestial level of capitalist imperialism that is America, and that's Thomas Goode. And then finally, Azra kind of stands in as the actual consequence of war, and that is the people that are stuck in between 2 tyrants or beasts or unstoppable forces, and just going, lads, will you just fuck off?
Stop, would you? Look, we've benefited a lot from this in many ways, but also fuck off. Stop it.
Fuck off.
Stop.
Give over.
Give it over, please, for the love of all that's holy. Benjamin.
So,
So before you go on and talk about those characters, there are a lot of other incidental world-building characters in this.
Yeah.
Who don't get a run. Tell me now. I want to know this. Is this one and done? Is this over now, or are we going to hear from those characters again?
No, it's over now. It's over.
That's over.
Unless Deniz Camp and Stipan Morian need a paycheck in a couple of years and decide to resurrect it, and
the Gulf War sequel.
Yeah, the Gulf War sequel, as it were. But I look, we get a lot of interesting characters in this. I've chosen those three because they're representations of particular ideologies that are at play within the comic. But the one that stood out for me, Michael, is Six Bill. As just
You mean
a horrific...
the incredible John Rambo Hulk?
Yeah, John Rambo Hulk, exactly.
Yeah.
Six Bill is featured on a bunch of stuff. There he is in the back of the comic, Michael. Six Bill is this huge, feral... He's like, if you saw 28 Years Later recently, Michael, he's Samson, essentially, from 28 Years Later. But even more techno-built and horrific. And he's essentially America's bullet in the gun. And they send him in to just decimate. Michael, I got strong hints of the character from Daredevil Born Again that we read very recently of Six Bill. The fellow with the tattooed flag on his face.
Nuke.
What's his name? Nuke. Strong hints of Nuke from that. You can check that out. It's down below, ladies and gentlemen. You can listen to that episode.
He is the classic American soldier gone over the edge. He looks like John Rambo. Like, I'm not being flippant here. He looks like John Rambo, and there are very much hints of the Hulk and Wolverine and any of your Berserker Rage characters to him.
Take your pick.
The fact that he's a little bit technology based is kind of irrelevant, to be honest, because he's the Hulk. He's skulking. He's the original Hulk. He's the 60s Hulk. Skulking underground, killing people. He's a monster. But he's also John Rambo. He's also American creating super soldiers who are damaged goods and just setting them loose. And he's skinning people alive and he's putting them on posts and he's doing all of the war crimes that Americans probably did in Vietnam in the 70s.
Allegedly.
But amped, that's why I said probably, but amped up to comic book levels. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a little bit of an infusion of comic book madness inside a very realistic series of war crimes that maybe happened.
Great at war crimes. He's great at war crimes. He is the best, probably the best at war crimes in this, barring the American president.
And isn't that the truth, Michael? The other interesting characters that I think are quite important in it is the wonderful journalist that follows along with the Iron
Ben,
Star for a while. Oh, okay.
He was the U proxy.
Oh, he was the me proxy. I see.
Yeah.
I see. So within the comic, he's Krylov Borovic is his name. Krylov Borovic.
That's actually that's the Russian transliteration of Ben Colby.
It might be. And he's the voice of humanity at the side of, again, a titanous force of symbolism. Do you know what I mean? A huge hulking figure in the Iron Star. And I think he's a really important character in it. I think the other one within the kind of Soviet era end of things is the Giant. I found him to be a very interesting character. He's called the Giant in it. He tucks the Communist Manifesto into the front of his trousers whenever he's going into battle, because he found that some of the Mujahideen and Afghani rebel forces cover themselves in scripture before they go into battle, and he likes that idea. But he's a staunch communist and follows through instead with the manifesto, the little
Science
red book.
and the manifesto. Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
very,
the little
very
red
good.
book.
There's a surprising abundance of superheroes in this, and that's, I think, where it took me to Warren Ellis, because Ben, I know I go back to this all the time, and sometimes it feels like when we're on this podcast, the influences behind stuff, it almost feels like I've only read 3 or 4 comics, but that's just because that's how influential they are on this genre of comic books. But there's big swathes of this which are so Planetary by Warren Ellis. Now, the very big difference is Planetary is told from a very American perspective, even though Warren Ellis is British, but also Planetary's a sweeping narrative which tells vignettes. But everything, like especially in the early days, the illegal creation of super soldiers, the proliferation of superpowered individuals in the kind of the Cold War, the the Russian science cities. They're all very Warren Ellis. And then we take this bizarre detour to the Tunguski event where we meet the Collective Man. And the Collective Man is basically this story's Superman, but, even better. And that's like Warren Ellis has done that 3 or 4 times. I think he did it with High, who was a Superman analog who left society and went to live on top of a mountain. Like, there's loads of Warren Ellis-y stuff in this. But pulled into a tighter narrative rather than a broader narrative. I'm not necessarily going to say better, because I do really like Planetary. But it's some of them feel a little bit odd. Like the whole Tunguski thing, going to the paradise, and then it all backfires. What was that about? Let's do a new segment, Benjamin, called Mix an Idiot, right? Let's do a segment called Mix an Idiot. What was the point of that? What was that about? You tell me.
I'm just going to need a second to wipe a single tear from my eyes, because I've been waiting years for us to start a segment called Mix an Idiot. And this is
okay, our new popular segment. Let's do our new popular segment, Mix an Idiot. What was going on in there? Now, you don't explain it to me, you son of a bitch, because I understand what happened.
I know.
But I don't know why it was in the... What was it about? What was going on? Tell me. And why was Popeye
just
there?
as a quick reminder for the folks listening at home.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. The incident involves where the Iron Star, or Colonel Planetoff, goes and visits... That's definitely not
his name, but all right.
A utopia that exists in Siberia. Or
Ben, I think you're thinking of Captain Planetoff.
I am, yeah. Platonov? It's Platonov, sorry. Colonel Platonov.
Captain Planetoff! Russian knockoff Captain Planet!
Nuclear power is great. What do you mean? Bring it everywhere. Anyway, racist Russian stereotypical accents aside.
Yeah.
He visits a dome that has spontaneously appeared in Siberia.
Yeah.
And he has to make the long trek there. And when he gets there, there is a utopia on its last knees. And that's the scene that Mick is referring to. So I think the first crucial thing in understanding what's happening there is the way that everybody's dressed inside this dome.
Collective farmers, like they're on a bloody Russian collective farm. Like bloody Superman in Red Sun.
Exactly, precisely, 100%. So that uniform that they're all wearing is a typical propaganda era aesthetic that was everywhere during the Cold War on the Soviet end. This notion...
It's Soviet communism gone right.
It's Soviet communism gone right. That's a perfect way of putting it. And I think it's really important that when we talk about this utopia is upheld by one individual, or should I say, one collection of individuals, because that's very important. The Superman of this story is someone called the Collected Man. And the Collected Man is quite literally saying the shared human, effort. That's precisely what communism kind of leaned on from a propaganda point of view. And when we look at some of the propaganda posters back in the day, a lot of those propaganda posters would feature lots of different types of Russian people. So you would have your standard, typical big burly farm boy Colossus in the X-Men, for example.
Oh yeah,
you would have him. Clothes. Yeah, you would have people that lean slightly more towards Mongolian ethnicity. They would be there on the farms. You would have strong, powerful farm women as well, with blonde hair ready to go. And we see a few versions of this throughout the comic. There's the strange footage of Russians going to Mars that we see. It pops up a few times throughout the comic. But primarily what's happening once the Iron Star reaches the utopia is things are starting to go wrong. People are dying, and they haven't been dying since the utopia started. And essentially, what it symbolizes, Michael, is the collapse of the communist dream. For the most part, throughout this entire comic, it could be argued that the Iron Star is a crumbling empire. If you want to look at America as the unstoppable force, the Russian element of it is the immovable object. But it's not an immovable object because it wants to be. It's an immovable object because it can't let go. And it's a very different way of looking at that concept of unstoppable force meets immovable object. The extreme horror of both of those is brought out by both the character of Six Bill and the character of the Iron Star in very different
Benjamin,
ways.
But shut up for a second. Does it all start crumbling because he brings the war in Afghanistan to it? Is that a symbolic thing for the kind of getting embroiled in Afghanistan and, you know, people seeing that Russians in the real world, Russians seeing that embroilment and going, actually, this is rubbish. Collectivism isn't working. Is that what we're being told here? Is this, you know, is it the fact that the Iron Star goes there that causes that collapse because he's bringing war to this supposedly peaceful collective utopia? Is that what?
Yeah.
Is that the symbolism?
So I don't think he's the sole symbolism of it. And I certainly don't think he's the cause. What I think is he takes a guess at it as it's collapsing, and I think the Collected Man gives us a hint at what it is as well. The Collected Man is a little bit like Dr. Manhattan. I think this is Dr. Manhattan if he didn't set his weird clock empire up on Mars, but set it up in Siberia instead. And he's omnipotent, not omnipotent, omnipresent.
No,
in a certain
omniscient.
way. Omniscient, that's the one I was looking for. Thank
Benjamin,
you very much.
I'm going to stop you for a
Yes.
second. You can't be omniscient in a certain way because
Okay,
omniscience
that's fair.
is by definition. But
Well-
he certainly seems to have. He certainly seems to be able to see a lot of stuff.
So there are a couple of different reasons given for this, but primarily he tells a series of stories because he watches people constantly from within the dome who are in Russia, and
he's a real creeper.
he tells an odd story of a policeman who's a serial killer in Russia, and he murders little girls who are the same age as his daughter, and that's very specific. And then he says, and now he's gone home to his family, and it's like it never happened, but it did happen, and he witnessed it. So I think, very similar to what you said, Michael, is the Collected Man no longer believes in collectivism. He is seeing the world outside of his bubble, and he is applying the cynical, awful nature of what people are going through in Russia. And I think for him, it causes a destabilization of who he is as a person. And the Iron Star takes a guess at that a little bit later in the comic. He
goes, maybe
says-
it's just all rubbish.
Yeah, essentially he does say that, but he's trying to guess at the source. And as he tries to get back to his armor, because it's all he knows, he only understands his armor. He thinks the armor is the solution. He thinks if he can fly up in the sky and get to the Collected Man, he can save everyone in his giant suit of armor. But it doesn't work. He says there's a panel here, Michael, where he takes out a farm boy. There's literally a panel of the soldier killing the farm boy. If that's not the death of symbolism, I don't know what is. But anyway, he says in that, one theory holds that the Collective Man is killing himself, driven to suicide from disappointments with mankind. Between you and me, I'll admit this one's most convincing. So this is happening. I think the cynicism or the toll of a utopia is what is killing the Collected Man and why he's giving it up. The other one that we get is another phenomenal splash page from Morian, which is the Collected Man versus some kind of abomination birthed from Chernobyl.
Yeah. Chernobyl. It's your Godzilla / Chernobyl team up.
Yeah.
The Russians and the Japanese.
There's a kaiju thing, and the Collected Man has to take that on, and he cites that as kind of his last straw, where he was just like, it's a horrific world that we're living in. So I think the dream symbolized by the Collected Man, who is someone of Mongolian descent, a child of Mongolian descent, an old Russian man, and I can't remember what the third one is
I think
in the panel.
he's thousands of people, isn't he? He's hundreds of
Yeah.
people at least.
I think that's the concept. But anyway, he gives up.
Yeah, he nopes out. But Benjamin,
He
isn't
nopes
it
out.
odd? Isn't it oddly positioned in the story? It's almost like a side story. It's almost like a side mission.
Yeah. So characters talk about paradise a lot in this. Azra has her own version of paradise. Her paradise is being left alone.
Yeah, but
Allowing
also a
Afghanistan-
very practical, real world, hard graft paradise, not a magical space bullshit paradise.
Yeah, there's no we're going to Mars for Azra. Azra is actually, I just need to keep the lights on for the people that live in my immediate community. That'll be fab.
Yeah. Yeah,
that'd be great.
And it's swords to plowshares, quite literally, in her case.
Yeah.
Because out of the unexploded bombs, thanks to local genius and ingenuity and kindness and civility and civics, they managed to build a functioning society. But then John Rambo fucks it.
John Rambo fucks it. And that's important as well. That's his paradise. Thomas Goode's paradise is a world in which American supremacy reigns, as one might guess, supreme. It's a world under the thumb of America. That's the world that he believes in.
Yeah.
And those are the different forms of paradise. And at one point, Azra and the Iron Star have a conversation. And he says, "Oh, I've seen paradise. I've been to paradise." And she laughs it off as he thinks his communism is paradise. But that's not what he meant. And I think the aside is meant to show us a world where he glimpsed paradise and saw it fail. And that's when he went to the bubble in Siberia. He was part of the great collectivist ideal that was the Siberian bubble. And I think that's what it is meant by it. But it's a really crucial segment, but it's also mind melding in terms of, when did this happen? Did this happen when he was in Afghanistan? Has he done this before? What?
It's quite jarring. It is quite jarring. Like, there are the time jumps around. I stopped reading the time jumps in issue 1 because I was right. If you're not going to work with me here, I'm gonna flow with the go and see where we end up. And if I have to go back and read it again, I'm going to be very upset at you. But I didn't. I don't think. I think it was fine. Like, for example, I was pretty sure that in that Vietnam intro sequence, we were seeing them discovering whatever alien thing had led to all of this superhuman proliferation on Earth. But we weren't. That was just the aftermath of a John Rambo.
It was $6 billion. Yeah, it was $6 billion. And the character at the start of it is Hunter S. Thompson modeled, the kind of reporter that has to take all this in. He's not a reporter. He's supposed to be a Navy guy, but I think we're supposed to read it in the voice of Hunter S. Thompson. So it's like, oh, I'm here in Nam. It's bullshit. Bullshit. And it's that kind of...
Hunter S. Thompson sound like Rick and Morty?
Yeah, he did. Have you never heard Hunter S. Thompson? It's insane.
I don't think I have.
He's got a real Rick and Morty vibe.
Does he? Oh, okay.
Big time. I'm not even making that up. That's
I believe
genuinely. So then he kind of sounded like... But anyway.
What?
When we look at that, it is the horror of Vietnam and what GIs were expected to commit against a force that was winning. But I think in this alternate history, I think America won through pure devastation. So again, $6 billion could be Agent Orange, the horrific chemical that was just used to blitz Vietnam.
Yeah, I get that, but also Agent Orange is referenced. Funnily enough, it's referenced. It's not referenced whether it's a gas or another guy. It could have been another guy.
It could be, yeah. In this world,
send
it
in
absolutely
Agent
could
Orange, and it's just that big it's just the annoying orange from the early 2000s internet,
rolling
but
over
weaponized. Just rolling over people.
And
I've been told. I've been told I look like the annoying orange, so you could probably throw together a meme or something for the reals.
We probably could. But I think, those time jumps and that backwards and forwards is typical Deniz Camp, Michael. That's one of his favorite techniques for immersion and world building. And it works quite effectively because what we're doing is we're slowly piecing together different parts of the world and they form an unconscious cohesion in our brain, and we kind of have a better sense of how the world is laid out rather than just strictly linear storytelling, as in A, B, C follows B, D follows C, etc. He does this jumping back and forwards thing a lot. Assorted Crisis events is based on that concept of time moving of its own volition as opposed to in any way that we perceive it to. And it's really interesting. I cannot recommend Assorted Crisis events enough. We might cover it at some point in this podcast, Michael.
If only we had a comic book podcast in which we could cover it.
Yeah. But also, Michael, we have... I think we might do an Absolute Universe special once we get all the first volume collected 1 to 6s of the thing. I have Batman and I have Wonder Woman at the minute. I get Absolute Superman, and when Absolute Martian Manhunter gets out, we'll do it all together. We'll read them all together, Michael, and we'll have a little special episode. Be great.
No great deal
Anyway.
am I, but I'll bend to your whim.
American Supremacy. Phenomenal. Listen,
What?
come here to me. You know
Right.
what is linear?
Time.
This podcast, Michael, it comes out one after the other, after the other, after the other. If you've been listening thus far and enjoyed what you listened to, why don't you hop on up to wherever you can rate things there. If you're on Spotify, just push those stars from 0 up to 5. Go on, do that for me. If you're on Apple Podcasts, just click the stars, put us up to 5, and give us a review. If you've been enjoying the podcast and you'd like to hear more and you'd like to keep up with lots of different things that we do, including mini episodes, fabulous stuff, like
When did we do a mini episode?
Beta Ray Bill, Argent Star, Michael. It wasn't part of our continuity, it was just a little add-on in between.
Was it?
We do mini episodes, Michael. Get
That
out
was
of
like
here.
50 minutes. It was nearly a whole
I know.
episode. I didn't
I know,
know
it
it was
was
a mini
great.
episode until just now.
They are mini episodes. Fuck you. They are mini episodes. You can go and
Felt
listen
like
to
a
those.
normal episode to me. That's all I'm saying.
We sometimes dig out some of our older episodes, some of the good ones from the very first days of this podcast, and we throw them back up there. We give them a little scrub using some I won't lie, AI audio definition filters, and we throw them back out there, Michael.
Get
so they
rid of
sound
some
a
of the
little bit
racism.
better. Kingdom Come was the last example of that. So we've put that out there as well. We're probably going to have Batman Strange Apparitions for October, which is coming in very, very soon.
Benjamin, is that AI filter the reason why when I listened to the Kingdom Come episode, every time I said kingdom, it was automatically replaced with male ejaculate?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, very good.
Kingdom male ejaculate is actually one of Michael's favourite phrases, and we tell him it's an AI filter so he doesn't get worried.
That's the worst. I think that's the worst joke I've ever done. Like that was.
It's pretty bad.
It sounded
You know
good
what?
in my head, but it wasn't good on paper.
If you were leaving us a review, you can stop now. We don't
Yeah.
deserve it. You can
Okay.
actually just leave it. You can actually just leave it there now.
Yeah.
No,
Knock
but
it
do
down
give
a
us
star. Just knock it down a star.
Do give us a follow. That was a 1-star joke, so that deserves to be the penalty. But do give us a follow. We're all over the social medias. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Threads, we're on Blue Sky. We're everywhere. They're all linked below in the description, wherever you're listening. Or follow it on Acast. Just follow along on Acast. If you can't stand us, but you still want interesting comic book looks and things like that, take a look at our Substack. Linked below in the description. We write essays about comics sometimes. By the time this is out, you'll be reading a brand new one on the technology nightmare of Absolute Gotham. The strange, awful, techno-organic horror show that is Absolute Gotham's scene. It's brutal stuff. You can check it out. It'll be published by the time you're listening to this. But give us a listen. Anyway,
Yes, go on.
that's enough out of me begging for bloody follows and reviews, Michael. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the other narrative tropes that we deal with in this? I'm going to
Are
turn
we
a
still
light
there?
on here because it's
I
very
don't know.
dark.
Yeah, you turn
no,
on
we
the
can go
lights,
up to
very
art and visuals. Jump up to art and visuals. Then.
Yeah, we've talked about narrative tropes and themes till the cows came home. Ben, the art's all right, isn't it?
Oh, it's very good, Michael. Very good.
There's a whole
Very good.
variety of styles, Ben. I don't know if they're all equally good.
Oh, okay, go on. Tell me more about that, Michael.
It harkened me back to the early days of reading collected issues of comic books, where as a young teen, let's say, when I was reading a comic book, and I'd pick up a collected issue, and halfway through a comic, the artist would change, and I go, oh, I don't like this anymore. Now, there's no bad art in this,
No.
but I don't think it is consistently standout. I think it varies from very good enough to standout. But for example,
Okay.
I wasn't super blown away by the kind of pastel Bobby Mockingbird-esque scenes with the president meeting the lawyers.
Oh, I thought that was so interesting from the perspective of it's done like an editorial illustration in a Vanity Fair. for
Yeah,
example.
very soft lines, very soft colors,
Yeah.
kind of a very light pastel water. That jumped out to me not as Like, I get it. I do get it. I think I get it. If I don't get it, we can go back to the segment Makes an Idiot. But I did find it, like, the jump, especially in the early pages, again, it goes back to that, what my point was earlier, that this is impenetrable to start. And the jump between the war comic, the scene-to-scene jumps, the kind of getting the vibe of Vietnam in the first couple of pages, to the sudden hard jump to the black and white tones of Mother Russia as we see young Captain Planetoff being taken away from his mother. There's a disjointedness to it, which I believe I understand artistically, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't take getting used to, and certainly on first read hinder the flow to a degree.
Yep, I would agree with you. So you can correct me if I'm wrong here. From an artistic point of view, I took it to be the plethora of perspectives and experiences of each character tinting whatever scene they're involved in, which is a perfectly valid comic book thing to do. But I would also agree with you that occasionally it's mega jarring. It's really weird. It throws you off your game. And I think, not to overly toot someone's horn, because I don't believe it's necessary. I think this is very well drawn. But you're right. The inconsistency does occasionally drag, and it does make it a bit more of a challenging read in places. I think it moves from, well, for example, the cover of this is the most typically comic book style that we encounter in the entire collected 6 issues. That is a standard superhero mech illustration. I don't think there's anything particularly non-American comic book about that. I think it's pretty standard. In other places,
I don't know if it's entirely standard. I think there's a hint of a Frank Frazetta-esque. Here's Frank Frazetta doing mechs. So
I also think that, you know, a lot of the illustrations that we get of Six Bill from the Afghani rebels perspective are Frank Frazetta. The one that I'm thinking of in particular is this one here, where he's just cleaving through the Viet Cong.
Yeah, I can see it. I can also see influences of, like, peak era Berserker Rage Wolverine there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's Weapon
Is
X.
that John Byrne?
John Byrne, I think, would be the guy that you're talking to about the Weapon X story.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
This isn't researched, so I'm taking a stab.
No, I think it's John Byrne or Bill Skianowitz.
You can.
I never get it right.
Bill Plympton.
Also, Klaus Janson, who did a lot of Frank Miller's runs on Daredevil. There's elements of all three of those guys in certain areas. But I tell you one thing that kind of blew me away at the start of each issue. At the start of each issue, Michael, you're given a bizarre splash page of almost myth-making panels. So each chapter of this begins with a splash page. So this is the Iron Star in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
In the poppy fields, causing chaos. That's insane. What a beautiful splash page. At the beginning of opening chapter, I think it's chapter 3 chapter 3, we get Stipan Morian's take on the Dance Macabre and the 1,000-Yard Stare. This is a famous illustration by, I think it's Norman Rockwell. I could be wrong. I can't remember who originally painted this, but this image from here up exists in this non-Gothic style. But behind him there is the Dance Macabre, which is famous medieval imagery that reminds everybody that they're going to die. So there's some very high concept art going on at the start of each one, and then we see the shaping of different styles. One of the places that I found that a little bit confusing, Michael, is it makes for very inconsistent characters that you have to track. For example, we never see Six Bill as a weird mechanized fella with red eyes again. Later in the comic, he's got green eyes and half a face and stuff like that. But again, it's just the perspective of each character, but I will admit, very jarring. All good, in my opinion, but very jarring.
I'm pretty certain we get one panel in a montage that shows that Captain Planetoff and Azra have had intimate relations. I'm pretty sure it's him, but I'm not certain. Which, there's an artistic integrity to that as well, where it's the comic book page of a split second flash if you were watching in a moving picture medium.
I think that's Azra and Ali, the man she falls in love with by mistake, but I'm not sure.
Is it? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure
because
she says she captures hearts, and then there is a sideways glance when she says it's a love story to Captain Off, before Ali is introduced standing behind him. So there's a bit of ambiguity to it, which I liked. But Benjamin, my favourite scene artistically was when the journalist treks off into the desert and it gradually becomes Mars, metaphorically. Because that's got a real John Carter of Mars vibe, with the flowing, the parachute becoming like the flowing rags, and he's stuck in the sandstorm, and he takes on an almost alien aspect.
Yeah, it's a little bit John Carter of Mars. It's a little bit Lawrence of Arabia, realizing what he's done. It's a little bit Apocalypse Now, kind of dressing yourself in the garb to survive the climate you were never meant to be in.
Get out of there.
Stuff. Get out of there. And, all of them are mad, Michael. I find people like Kirlov, the journalist, are, again, they're meant to show you the human toll of all this, because all of their minds break steadily, Michael. Like, we just spoke about Ali, who is a one-issue character. He exists in the final 5th issue for 2 pages, 3
5
pages?
panels, something like that.
Yeah, maximum. And he exists to show you a man who's broken. Ali is kind of that most vilified of characters, in that he's a man who has worked his way up through the colonizers' ranks, found some degree of success, and then returned to his homeland. Ali went through an intelligence program with the KGB, and he comes back to Afghanistan, and he believes that he can make the world better because he's worked through their system. And he, unfortunately, is met with the realization that all he is now is an instrument of the oppressor. He's not going to be able to change the system from within, because the system that he's trying to fight within is the system that builds bombs for children.
Don't make bombs for children. I think that's the biggest message for this.
Arguably the biggest message of the entire thing. And I think, we talked a little bit about the toll of war and stuff like that, but I think that one of the enduring messages of this is that war will destroy you as a person, both your soul, your body, and everything else that you hold dear. Kirlov, the journalist, loses his hearing. He's forced to take lives. He's forced to wield a gun. He's forced to watch people die. It strips him of this notion of objective journalism that he clings to in the beginning. Ali takes his own life with one of the bombs that's destined to go into the hands of a child. The Iron Star himself is a broken man. Like, he's just... He's not. But he broke much earlier than everyone else, because the lie he tells himself, Michael, is that I build bombs to save the world, or I make bombs to save the world. That's the line that and he's a weapons maker, but he's not. He's just a weapons maker that murders and maims and kills. He's not saving the world at all. And I think that matters.
Gorilla Iron Man.
Yeah. One of the more interesting versions of that comes from Thomas Goode towards the end of the 6 issues, where he's trying to raise funds for, I think it's his 4th term, the comic says. So this notion of a 2-term president is gone. Yeah, it's a little bit uncomfortable for everyone involved, and we'll get to that in a second because it's quite important. He has to shake hands with the fat cats, and the fat cats are like, yeah. You're just a risky investment at the minute, Thomas. Can I call you Thomas? And that's a real insult to him earlier when he's talking to his old buddy Egon Teller, who is Tony Stark in this world, I believe. Egon Teller was the mad scientist that created Six Bill, and then went on to found that world's version of Apple. Egon Teller is that guy, and he roars at Egon Teller when he calls him Thomas, and he says, everybody calls me Mr. President, and that's the thing. But not the fat cats at the end, who pay for all this. And they go on to list a series of corporations that actually exist. Exxon, Lockheed Martin. Those guys just suddenly get dropped into it. And they call him a risky investment. And it's only when, and spoilers again if you haven't read this, folks.
What are you doing? We're nearly an hour in.
What are you doing? We're nearly an hour in. Go and read the comic. But
What are you
when
doing still here?
Six Bill and the Iron Star cause a nuclear explosion in Afghanistan, the fat cats are delighted. They're like, we've won. And Thomas Goode is like, no, we didn't kill the enemy. The Iron Star is still alive. And he still has a bizarre good guys win, bad guys lose, soldier kill, soldier win mentality. But the world in which he's in is like, no, we make a profit now because, you know, they're going to need to rebuild things. And the whole he's fallen. The ideology of communism is gone, so capitalism can move in there now. And Thomas Goode is left there going, oh, fuck. Oh, no.
I thought I was the baddie, but there's even worse than me. I thought I was the baddie.
And I didn't know at that point, Michael, if he was going to kill everyone in the room, because he was shown to have a temper with Egon Teller. He threw the desk out the window. And I didn't know if he was going to murder everyone in the room. And this is the bit that really solidified something for me, because as I was reading, what I found was this is Watchmen. This is a continuation of the themes that were brought up in Watchmen, fueled by modern events far more than... Yes, it's set in the 1980s, but it's actually a retelling of the modern political crises that we find ourselves surrounded by today. And that's backed up by the afterword in the comic book. We'll get to that in a second. What I thought was going to happen was I thought that Thomas Goode was going to murder all the fat cats in the room. And then that doesn't happen, obviously. So the fat cats get to continue and they'll invest in and make profit off war and all that stuff. And it drove home something that separates this from the inevitable comparison to Watchmen, because it's very like that. Watchmen, in my opinion, is a superhero comic that is intruded upon by the real world occasionally. So the cynicism of its age occasionally interrupts that narrative. This is different. This is an everyday world that is intruded upon by superheroes. So they keep forcing themselves into the narrative, and sometimes they're just tolerated. So Thomas Goode is a great poster boy. He's essentially a stand-in for Reagan. He's the celebrity become president. You know, it's Reagan in the 1980s. It's not an actor who becomes a president. It's a superhero who becomes a president. It's if Steve Rogers was the president of America. But he doesn't hold the power...
And he was a prick.
And he was a prick. He doesn't hold the power that he thinks he holds. He is instead just kind of a figurehead for these companies, or an oligarchy of American companies, if you want to look at it that way. And it doesn't matter that he used to be able to rend other human beings limb from limb on the battlefield. It doesn't. There's no power in that for him in a room full of people with money. I found that really interesting. I really liked that defining of tone towards the end of the comic. And I think it is a really interesting dissection of both modern political crises and how we polish history across the board. But yeah, and that's what I thought, Michael.
Yeah, very good. Anyway, stop genocide.
Give it over.
Give it over. Stop doing that genocide.
So I think the afterword is quite important here. So Deniz Camp and Stipan Morian started working on this in 2018, Michael, and worked on it throughout the COVID pandemic. And it's only really come out in the last year. It's a 2024 comic, Michael. Borderline current for us.
Very current, very modern, very relevant. How upsetting.
And Deniz Camp has been very candid on record and said, I didn't know where this was going. I started off with 3 perspectives: Azra, Kirillov, and the Iron Star. I had been learning about the Soviet-Afghan war a little bit, and I started off with this notion of 3 people with 3 unique perspectives, and I went from there. And then he worked with Aditya Bidikar and Stipan Morian to build this out and flesh this out. And it was actually fueled by the events like the insurrection at the US Capitol, incited by Donald Trump. And a lot of those themes began to push their way into what he was developing. And I guess we see that unfold, and it's definitely how am I going to put this?
Poorly.
The benefit of our modern distaste for myth making is what fuels this retelling of the 1980s. So what I mean by that is, and he plays with this for an entire chapter, I think in chapter 4 or 3, where it's the Suicide Cowboys versus the Iron Star versus the Special Forces of the Red Army versus some rebels and some normal Americans. And that scene is narrated almost entirely by snippets from fictional accounts of that war.
3 or 4 conflicting accounts. Fabulous.
3 or 4 conflicting accounts. One is the Iron Star's autobiography.
I killed them all with my big fists.
In 2 minutes, no problem. Never doubted. Win. And then it simultaneously has the legs cut out from under it by Kirlov's account, which was, we could all see that the Iron Star was losing. We didn't know what to do. And then there is a positive American spin in the form of Dan's, is the name of the author of that one. And then there is a positive Russian imperialist spin in the form of another character. So it's told through those 4 snippets, and I think it's a masterstroke of writing from Deniz Camp, because he uses 4 conflicting perspectives to tell a very fluid story throughout that battle. Some of my favorite bits are, while the Iron Star is taking on the Suicide Cowboys, who are essentially all terminally ill soldiers that have been augmented with horrific technology in a last-ditch kamikaze effort, if you want. There's a little bit of that in there. That was, for me, one of the most Mark Miller, Warren Ellis-esque moments.
I think that was the peak Bill Plympton moment for me.
But it was these polished up techno-organic men with nothing left to lose that were being sent in on behalf of the United States. And baseball bats. Exactly. And there was a little bit of that to it. But one of my favourite bits of this, Michael, is where they realize that in order to make the Suicide Cowboys run, there is an external power source further back on the battlefield.
Yes.
That's running this. And all 4 accounts begin to try and explain how the Russian Special Forces targeted this. So it starts with the Iron Star saying, "My men were the best of the best. We'd been trained to expect everything from the Americans, so we inevitably found their weak spot. Any vulnerability we could sniff out." Then the American perspective is like, only a special forces team that had been studying American weaknesses for decades could have done this. No one else could have found it, because it would be ridiculous. The Americans had an obvious weak point. The imperialist one as well kind of sings the same hymn off the same hymn sheet as the Iron Star. And then finally Kirlov, the only man who was on the ground essentially in this special forces team, was like, we had no idea what we were doing. It was pure dumb luck. We found a target and we shot it. And that was it. I loved that. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal as a deconstruction of the myth making that we can't help but put on these awful events. And good stuff all around.
Very good comic, Benjamin. Very good comic altogether, if a bit impenetrable. Give it a shot, though. Give it a fucking shot.
Give it a whirl.
Don't go, "This is impenetrable, I'm putting it down," and blaming Ben, because that's what I did. Instead,
that's what Mick does.
Actually read it. It's what I do. Sometimes I don't. Let's say, Ben, 9 times out of 10 when you pick a comic, I go, "Oh, I hate this. This is Ben's fault." And 8 times out of 10 I go, "Oh, actually that was pretty good. I'm glad I read it."
That's not
1 time out of 10 I go, "No, that was rubbish. I'm going to get him." But we're hearkening back to the start. So impenetrable to start, but so worth it.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Dense. You are going to have to slog through it. There's some metafictional elements to this. Egon Teller in issue 2 gets some bizarre, almost noir narrated, like film noir narrated journal entries or something. I don't know what you'd call them. And it can be jarring at times to keep up with all this. I think Azra's story is meant to be a big kind of whipping off the disguise moment at the end where she's like, yes, I'm a spy and my family founded Kabul and my brother was a spiritual kind of guru and my sister was a genius. And at times you're just like, whoa,
what's going on?
Where's
Rambo?
on?
Where's Rambo gone?
But I think it's phenomenal. I think it blends this idea of mythology and, very often when we're on this podcast, Michael, we talk about a character highlight or something that we really enjoyed. I think one of the most reprehensible characters I've ever seen is Six Bill. He's awful. He's just a murder machine. But he's a victim. He's been made into a war machine. But his end is as Shakespearean as you could imagine. He careens into this attempt at an Afghan utopia. And he's just there to destroy. And he gets a great introduction from issue 5 to 6. It says, what kind of creature can't recognize paradise when they're standing in front of it? And it's just him framed as he's emerging from a cave and has it in his sights. And I was just like, oh, this is very good. This is excellent. This is really bang tidy for me. I'm enjoying this. But then it's where he finds the heart of Iron Star. And he weeps because he knows that this is pretty much the only thing that's going to make him stop. He knows himself that he can't keep going. It's just not going to be possible for him if he blows this thing up. And I think to myself, Michael, God, what an amazing character. I thought the art around him breaking into the settlement, Azra narrating her story, narrating what they were trying to achieve while he demolishes walls and rips things apart, and just really excellent stuff. Nom nom nom.
He's an absolute shitebox.
He's an absolute shitebox. Yeah.
What would people who like this like though?
Ooh, I think you would. Watchmen is top of the list. You'd get your teeth into some Watchmen.
For example, we're about to recommend like the most famous and popular comics in the world. So
yeah,
it's like our first fucking day.
Watchmen would be good. The Authority is a good example of this. We've recommended The Authority so many times. Planetary, as we've already spoken about, is a great example of this. I think, funnily enough, We Three by Grant Morrison would be one of my top ones in this kind of unwilling puppets of the war machine vibe. We Three is a really bizarre little comic by Grant Morrison, but very, very good, where pets are turned into mechs and turned into war machines. And it's the same concept of, God, I'm such a brutal killing machine. I sure wish I wasn't. We Three, I think, would be my top recommendation for people that enjoyed this. But I think you would, Deniz Camp in general, the stuff that he writes follows this same kind of idea. If you're looking for something current to sink your teeth into, News from the Fallout would be a good one for you from Image Comics, but also Assorted Crises events would be a great one for you. You'd enjoy that. But come here to me. We're not done yet, Michael. We're coming into October as you're listening to this. Nom. It's spooky season. And that means that we need your recommendations. Normally, we would have it picked by now, ladies and gentlemen, but we want your horror recommendations. I am going to be very ambitious over the month of October, and I'm going to publish, Michael, a recommendation a day for a spooky comic.
Recommendation a day?
A recommendation a day, Michael.
Every day? I'll fucking believe that when I see it.
I've got the first 11 ready to go, Michael. The first 11 ready to go.
So there's going to be 11 recommendations, ladies and gentlemen.
But what I'm reading at the minute in preparation for spooky seasons, Michael, is By Chance and Providence by Becky Cloonan and Lee Lockridge. And it's 3 spooky gothic tales illustrated beautifully in a very haunting manner. 3 ghost stories told. But keep an eye out for that. So that's the one that I'm reading at the minute. But I want to hear what you recommend as horror comics for us to read in October. Not you, Michael, the readers, the listeners.
Yeah, the listeners.
The listeners. God damn it.
Sorry, it's my first podcast. Every podcast is someone's first podcast.
Every podcast is someone's first podcast, Michael, and that's okay. That's okay. It took me 15 minutes to find my own meeting today. I won't hold it against you.
I'm so hungry.
But anyway, ladies, gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, do get in touch with us. Let us know what we should read for our October issue. We do have 2 things coming up. There's going to be an archive episode, Batman's Strange Apparitions, an absolutely classic early 80s Batman horror-fueled kind of gig. It's got Dr. Phosphorus in it. It's got Hugo Strange as a ghost in it. It's fabulous stuff. Go do it. You can check that out before it comes out. We're also going to be taking a look at Zatanna Bringing Down the House, which is a big old spooky tale involving demons and magic and nightmares. Oh my. But we still need to pick our Mac Daddy, our end of season extravaganza, our collected issues for October. We'd love to hear from you. Go follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads, YouTube even. And just leave us a comment on this video. Just go down there and tell us what we should be reading. Go on, go on, go on. That's it from us this week. Goodbye.
See you in a couple of weeks.